What is good, guys? Welcome to the debut episode of College Bet Day. Before I bring in my guests, let me tell you guys a little bit about what I'm trying to do with this show and kind of like what I'm going for. At the end of the show, leave comments or about what you like or what you didn't like about the show, so I can make proper adjustments to the show. But first off, this is gonna be a lot different than Let's Cap. This is gonna be more of your typical roundtable, short form, straight to the point with our plays and analysis type show. So we're not gonna have any screen sharing or SDQL discussions on the show, but the format for Let's Cap will remain the same. Just any extra shows I do outside of Let's Cap will be like this type of format. I'm planning to do an NFL version of it probably tomorrow, and then also when college basketball and NBA versions come out, it's going to be the same thing. So be on the lookout for those shows. But with that out of the way, let's bring in our guest for the day. We got Rob Veno from Wagertalk in the building, and we got Vaughn Dalzell from NBC Sports. Thank you guys for blessing the first episode of College Bet Day. Rob, I'm a huge fan of your work, but I gotta say, I seen the Wager Talk meet and greet basketball video earlier today. I just gotta say you're lucky I didn't show up to that meet and greet because you were gonna have to guard me that day. How are you doing? How's college football treating you?
Yeah, my claim to fame on that day, Ronald, was that I'm hanging with a bunch of 30 and unders, and everybody 30 and under wants a blow. They're making the signal to come out, and I'm not coming out. So I'm proud of my cardio and the ability to hang there. And some of those guys can shoot, man. They force you to get out on them. But I'd love to see you the next time once we get out there. We'll hook up. We'll meet. We'll do a little something. In college football last weekend was really, really good for me. NFL even better. It was a 65% first 2 weeks of the season. So that's, if we can maintain that, that'll be really good. Look forward to this week 3 card. The fact that I could avoid what you would call the pitfalls of week 1 and week 2, Ronald, because they usually in college football, they're difficult. And once you get through that, I know numbers get tighter, but our knowledge of these teams gets better too. So I think we got some spots this weekend we can capitalize on. Thanks for the invite. Glad I probably should have brought a bottle of champagne to christen your show with.
It's all good. Next time. Vaughn, you know how I feel about you and your bright future in this game, man. I'm excited to have you on. I think the last time you were on was week 0, and if I remember correctly, we kind of killed it that week.
Yeah, we did. No bragging though. It's a new week. We can't be reminiscent on the past.
How's everything been going since then?
Well, that was the best week I had by far. As Rob just said, week 1 and 2 of college football are the hardest weeks. So I had a lot of 1 or 2 point losses. Even I got a lot of closing line value and didn't come out on the right end of those games. Cincinnati versus Miami, Ohio, I lost by 1 point. Louisville, I had them +3, looked great the entire game, and they blow it. But these are the type of games, that you have to move on from after you lose and look forward to the next one. And that's really what we're doing here tonight. So we got Thursday football, Friday football, Saturday football, Sunday football. It's a great weekend. Glad to be here. I'm a big fan of both you guys. So let's get some winners. Let's make some money together.
Appreciate it. With that said, man, let's get into this slate here. I know you have something you're eyeing something here tonight on this Chattanooga and Illinois game. We have the line here at, let's see where we are. -18, total at 39. Go ahead and rock with that one.
Yeah, so there's been some movement on this one, which has been pretty crazy. The total's gone from 39 up to 44 now. A lot of movement there because people believe Illinois is going to score 30+ and Chattanooga can get 10+ in this game. We'll see about that. Now, Chattanooga is actually ranked number 9 in the FCS poll, so they're one of the best teams in the country when it comes to that. But when you look at who they've beat so far, these teams are combined 1-8 straight up. That's Wofford, Eastern Illinois, and North Alabama. So they beat 3 bad teams. And then you look at their quarterback, who's Preston Hutchinson, who I actually know quite a bit about because I bet Eastern Michigan's win total 2 seasons ago. They cashed, but he was actually the quarterback who got hurt and replaced for Ben Bryant, who's now at Cincinnati. So Preston Hutchinson only has 1 career game against a Power 5 opponent. That was at Wisconsin, another Big Ten opponent. They lost 34-7. He went 6 of 13 for 53 yards and interception. So Illinois, a team that's dominated the past 2 games, 1.3 yards per carry, only 180 passing yards per game on the season. They've looked outstanding. They're 6-4 ATS in their last 10 against FCS opponents. I played Illinois at 18. I think this is a 3-touchdown game for them. So I would play this at the 19.5 it is currently. And if you feel squeamish about that, the team total is also not a very scary bet. I think Illinois and Chase Brown could definitely put some points on the board. In the first Thursday night game in Champaign history, baby, it's going to be exciting.
A nice breakdown. I love that. And like I said, this is going to be a short form show. We're going in and out, going straight to the next one. Rob, Veno, you got this Florida Gators and Tennessee Volunteers here on Saturday. How are you tackling this one?
I shortened it up, Ronald, because you uncover some things as you go along. You're handicapping each and every week. I'm going to play first half over the 31.5. I'll get to one of the biggest reasons right away. The last 12 games UT has played under Josh Heupel. That's 3 this year. Go back 9 last year. The first half total has either hit or exceeded 34 points in 11 of those 12 games. Here we're staring at 31.5. I was surprised that we didn't get a 33.5 in that range. So going to try and capitalize on this. Obvious reasons why that happens, right? The tempo that Tennessee plays at right now, Tennessee on average 77.7 plays per game, almost 78 plays per game. And the complete total of plays per game where Tennessee's involved right now is 152. So, of course, when you're playing overs, you want more possessions. You want more plays. Tennessee certainly provides us with that, with the speed they go at. Second thing you got to notice here is, after game 1, Anthony Richardson got all kinds of praise for winning that game at Utah, and it almost became not the Florida Gators, but the Anthony Richardson team. I haven't heard somebody claim he's without question going to be the number 1 pick in the draft when he chooses to come out, which is absolutely absurd. What I noticed from that game, guys, is that in the second half, Utah had 4 possessions. And in those 4 possessions, they gained 302 yards and probably should have had 28 points, tell you the truth. I mean, they did score 2 touchdowns. They got stoned at the 1 on a 4th and goal. And then at the end of the game, they're at the 6-yard line with an opportunity to tie. They chose to go for the win, and they got picked. But 302 yards in 4 possessions indicates your defense isn't that good. It gets enhanced when you look at that game against South Florida last week. South Florida, of all teams, chose to run the ball down Florida's throat. 62% of their play calls were run. 71% of their yardage was on the ground. They ran for 200 plus against Florida. I love Billy Napier, good head coach. The Alabama way is his way. He learned it under Nick Saban, brought it to UL Lafayette. They did great things down there, and I'm sure he'll do great things here. But right now, that defense is a mess, and you don't want to have that defense this early in the season against Tennessee's offense, which is far more stable now under Josh Heupel. Hendon Hooker, for all intent and purposes, is the better quarterback at this point in time than Anthony Richardson. I expect Tennessee to score here, guys, in the first half, right out of the chute. What they do is they get out quick and they force you to chase. Your game plan unravels real fast. And even if the other side scores first, it takes Tennessee, a minute 28 to go 75 yards and score. So I thought over 31.5 was cheap. I even think the full game total is cheap. I wouldn't talk anybody off over 62 either, because this is a heated rivalry. One of the things you always think of when you see this game is Steve Spurrier always saying you can't spell citrus without UT. And maybe it's time for Tennessee to get back a little bit here under Josh Heupel, who's not afraid. We keep our notes on head coaches in college football, right, Vaughn? And Josh Heupel is not afraid to hit the gas fourth quarter. If he's up 4 TDs, he's still going to score. He only knows one way. So I'm going to play it that way, Ronald, because it's been consistently getting us paid. Give me the Florida-Tennessee game, first half, over 31.5.
I love that play a lot. I mean, you guys can see, you guys in the viewers here can see why I brought Rob and Vaughn in here. Their analysis and the detail within it is just amazing, and it's hard to follow that. Especially when I'm going to be talking about the Ball State Cardinals and Georgia Southern Eagles. So the way that I'm going with this one, I'm looking at Ball State, actually, looking at their schedules, they've been kind of going in the opposite directions, right? Ball State started off the season with ranked opponent Tennessee. They got smashed 59-10. Then they lost to an undervalued Western Michigan team, 37-30. And then they finally get their first win over a lowly Murray State team, 31-0. On the other hand, you got Georgia Southern. They started off with an easy schedule, spanked Morgan State 59-7. Then they faced a weak Nebraska defense and put up 45 points there, and on over 600 plus yards gained. And then last week they tailed off, scoring just 21 points against UAB. Seems like these two teams are sort of going in opposite directions as far as momentum goes. Offensively, Ball State, their quarterback, John Paddock, has thrown 787 yards, 6 touchdowns and 3 picks on 60.6% passing. Compared to Kyle Van Treese for Georgia Southern, he's thrown for 980 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So touchdown to interception ratio, not that great. But if we're looking at yardage, 980 yards looks good, but 776 of those yards came between Nebraska and Morgan State. He went 24 for 50 for just 204 yards and a touchdown, plus 3 interceptions last week against UAB. I don't think he's going to have that type of performance again, but I do think he'll throw at least another pick in this game here specifically. He's thrown at least 1 INT in every game so far this season. Another thing to note is Georgia Southern has been converting 62% of their third down conversions. I think that's going to be coming down to earth a little bit, especially with their level of football. This isn't a sustainable percentage for this team specifically. Defensively, it's hard to rate both of these teams because of their schedules, but Ball State has shown the ability to garner some takeaways, and Georgia Southern, they really haven't. Other than the game against Morgan State, they have 0 takeaways between the games against Nebraska and UAB. Ball State has forced 7 fumbles combined in 3 games, have come away with 3 of them, plus they got 3 interceptions. So I think for me, the takeaways are going to be important in this game. I think this one will be closer than people think. I like Ball State plus 9.5 here. Actually, I probably wouldn't be surprised if they come out with the W here. So that's my first game on the round table here. Like I said, we're going in and out, quick analysis with our plays here. Vaughn, we got another one coming up here on Saturday. We got the Ducks and Washington State. Let us know what you're thinking about this one.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about takeaways here, and this is an interesting game because the Oregon Ducks don't have any takeaways against an FBS opponent yet, but they're coming right here against Washington State, in my opinion. Now, Wazoo had a couple turnovers against Wisconsin their first game, or in that upset win where they only scored, they didn't score in the fourth quarter. Neither team scored in the fourth quarter. And then you look at their game against Colorado State, they turned the ball over 2 times as well. So as well as Cam Ward and company look, there is turnovers there. And for Oregon, Bo Nix had maybe the best game of his career. And Bo Nix isn't a guy that I like backing at all by any means. I will say that out. But this is the first time I will be backing Bo Nix. They didn't show much against Georgia, which most teams won't. But in this series in particular, which I'm sure both of you guys look at trends in series, particularly against conference opponents. And this one was interesting because Washington State, between 2010 and 2019, covered every single time against Oregon. Washington State was 10-0 ATS against Oregon, mostly because of inflated lines. Everybody wants to bet Oregon. But the past 2 years, Oregon was 10.5-point favorites, 13.5-point favorites. They won both games by 14 and covered. Now we're starting to see the tide turn in this series. Historically, Washington State has struggled out of non-conference play, getting into conference play, especially when they've been undefeated going into conference play. They've lost every time outside of a Nevada game, which was a 3-9 team. So as much as I hate Bo Nix, to be honest with you, I think Oregon is going to come to play here on the road. I think Washington State could be a little overrated, and I think the turnovers are going to be coming for the Ducks here. So this number opened at 5.5. I'm good with it up to 7. I know a lot of sharps were on this play as well, even though Oregon could also be just a public play too, with a lot of people just being Ducks fans in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough when you have a public team like Oregon, because when you look at these percentages and line movement, you never know who is sharp, who isn't, if it's just recreational money and stuff like that. But all we know is the information we have and the data that we have. So I like that play a lot too as well. Rob Veno, you're up next here. We got the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Wisconsin Badgers. Minus 18 for Ohio State, totals at 57. How are you looking at this one?
I'm going to try under here, Ronald, under 57. And I'll tell you why. I'm a big fan of coordinators, certain ones. And of course, the opposite for certain ones as well, especially in college football. And I'm not a coach, but man, I love to play one when I'm handicapping games. So let me tell you where I'd start here. If I'm Jim Leonard, who is an outstanding defensive coordinator for Wisconsin, one of the best in the game, all I do is go back 3 weeks and turn on the tape of Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame and how they defensed Ohio State in that game. Marcus Freeman set up an umbrella defense. I get it. Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't play much in that game, got hurt early, but still what he did was he just said, listen, you guys are going to march down the field here. We're good enough to play the run. We're not going to let you go over the top, and let's see what you can do. And you know what Ohio State did? They did nothing for 3 quarters. Their final 2 drives of the game, they put up touchdowns, but 6 of the first 7 were absolute nothing. And Wisconsin has the same horses that Notre Dame has. So I would set it up the same way if I'm Jim Leonard, especially after watching 77 points bombarded on Toledo last week by Ohio State. And without that even being played, Jim Leonard knows enough about Ohio State already. So that's where I would start defensively for them. Obviously, Wisconsin's offense is prehistoric. Listen, there's guys in the game in college football still that, and Paul Chryst being one of them, that just won't come out of the 1960s with their offense. And he probably won't come out of it here. And Ohio State, to tell you the truth, guys, has shown good enough on defense so far to be able to contain Wisconsin. I think there's a little bit of a misnomer that dates back to last year that Ohio State still can't play defense, but the numbers right now indicate a little bit different. You know, it could be a product of the opposition, or it could be Ohio State getting better. Jim Knowles, remember, their new defensive coordinator, is the guy who produced the best defensive team Oklahoma State's had during Mike Gundy's tenure last year. So I think Ohio State's turned a little bit of a corner there. Notre Dame limited Ohio State to 10 possessions in that game. I think if you can shorten Ohio State up, certainly it helps with the score. If you're Ohio State, I talked about the game plan on one side. If you're Ohio State and Jim Knowles, what do? You take 8 guys, shove them in the box, and tell Wisconsin, Braylon Allen's going nowhere against us. And, you know, Graham Mertz, come try us. And I don't know that Wisconsin can try anybody through the air. I could be proven wrong, but I haven't seen it that way out of a Wisconsin offense in a long, long time. I'll just close it real quick without going into any more detail here, Ronald, with the way Wisconsin games have been played in the Big Ten. Go back to their last 16 conference games. 14 out of those 16 have totaled 56 or less. We're staring at 57 here. That's a pretty high percentage of games where Wisconsin dictates what's going to happen, even if they're the shorthanded team on personnel, which they are here. They find a way to muck it up and at least contain the other team from scoring. I think 57 is a bit too high. I think it's a product of Ohio State's result last week, and it just is so reminiscent of that Notre Dame game first week of the season, even in the pattern, the way the line is moving. The line went toward Ohio State in that game from like 14 to 18. The line is shifting all the way up to 18 on Ohio State here. I'm going to try under 57 for all those reasons.
Yeah, you know what? I like the fact that you added that piece at the end about how they did last week, right? Because they scored 77 points, and you see a total of 57, you're automatically going to think they're just going to run the score up. But when it comes to these conference games and things like that, like you mentioned, right, it's a little bit different. The defensive mindset when it comes to these types of games is a lot different. So I like that look a lot as well. You guys are just tackling you guys are tackling these key games here. I keep taking these ugly ones. I tweeted earlier yesterday, like, ugly games have value too, right? So I'm looking at this Western Michigan Broncos and San Jose State Spartans. This is actually one of the last games on Saturday. I'm looking at Western Michigan plus 6.5. I mentioned earlier in my other breakdown that I feel like Western Michigan's a little undervalued here. San Jose State is coming off a narrow loss to Auburn. The Broncos, who are 1-2 so far in the season, both losses came by ranked opponents, Michigan State and Pittsburgh. Offensively, I think the Broncos are the more balanced team. One thing to note is that their starting quarterback, Jack Salapak, has thrown 4 interceptions, but 3 of them came from Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's D has been one of the best as far as takeaways, even prior to that game in week 1 and 2. Earlier, I mentioned the Broncos are the more balanced team. Spartans have primarily worked through the air. On the ground, they're just averaging 51.5 yards per game. One thing they've done well, though, is take care of the ball. 0 interceptions thrown, 0 fumbles lost. But it's been a short season so far for them. But looking at how they did last season, I think that that zero giveaways is going to go away. Their starting quarterback, Siobhan Cordero, he threw 17 touchdowns last season, 11 interceptions. He's also been sacked 10 times so far this season in just 2 games. And with that type of protection, mistakes are bound to happen. I think that's going to happen this week here. Defensively, San Jose State has done a great job with takeaways as well, but majority of their takeaways came from Portland State and then an interception from Auburn's backup quarterback. Another thing to mention, they're allowing 100% success on 4th down conversion so far in the season on 6 attempts between the games that they've had so far. And they were actually outgained in yardage by over 100 yards in their win over Portland State. So that's another thing to know as well. Looking at the Broncos defensive stats, it's a little bit misleading since they've had to face 2 ranked opponents. One thing to mention is they did hold Michigan State to 30% on 3rd down conversions. If they can limit the Spartans here to around that or even less, I feel like they have a good chance of coming out not only to cover, but possibly win this game outright. I like taking dogs that I feel like have a chance to win. And that's what I have here today with Western Michigan plus 6.5. And that one, we were going through these games pretty quickly, and that's exactly how I wanted it. 6 games down. I'm going to go over the recap of those 6 games real quickly. We had, where we go? We got Vaughn Dalzell tonight, Illinois minus 18. Rob Veno on Saturday, Florida, Tennessee, first half over 31.5. I had Ball State plus 9.5. Vaughn, Oregon minus 6.5. Ravino, Wisconsin, Ohio State under 57. I just had Western Michigan plus 6.5. Those are our 6 breakdowns right there, guys. And then I want to let Rob and Vaughn kind of go over some last words here. I know we have so many more games on Saturday, some NFL games. We got Thursday night football tonight. Rob, let's start with you real quick. Do you have any last words, any extra games you want to talk about, anything to promote over at Wagertalk? Now's your chance.
We'll get promotion out of the way real quick here, Ronald. First of all, if you want to find me on Twitter, it's at Rob Veno Sports. Sometimes people get a little confused with my last name and wine in Italian, think it's I, but it's actually Veno. So at Rob Veno Sports on Twitter. And for all the media video content that we do each and every week at Wagertalk, we analyze just about every game that's on the board, whatever sport it is. You can find it all at wagertalk.com. If you're not a member, it's not that difficult. Go over there, drop your email address, and you get all this content for free at wagertalk.com. If you're interested in selection packages, mine are always available over there on my homepage at wagertalk.com. As for last words, Ronald, I'll leave you this quick. Vaughn covered one side of one potential betting aspect of the Illinois-Tennessee Chattanooga game. I actually leaned toward over in that contest as well. He kind of brought up the point that most of us believe that Illinois will hit 30 plus. They're actually off a bye week coming into this. And I do think that Brett Bielema, I actually made the point on Twitter, or not a point, just an observation, that within a couple of years, he may have the best team. He may overtake a lot of those teams in the Big Ten West because they've got something going on there in Champaign. So I think over, and the thing is still moving as we speak right now. I'm looking at 45s. I actually got 44 earlier, but you had the opening number of 39. It's a 6-point move on that game. Sometimes FCS games don't take that much money to move the price. So that's a potential reason there. I'll switch to tomorrow real quick for those that are going to get involved in college football. Tomorrow night, I like Syracuse minus 9.5. We won't detail it because we don't have time now, but that is the side that I'm on. For Saturday, there were a few things I like. And now, you know what? I'm stumbling here because I just lost my train of thought talking about that other game. So I'll go back without wasting any time. I'll go back to tonight. It's interesting that Vaughn is wearing Steeler colors because I took the Steelers plus 4.5 here in this game. It's going to be a bad weather game, defensive minded. I just think the dog is the right side. Divisional games are so key to all these teams, and I just think this game will be played to a field goal. So give me Steelers plus 4 as an observation for tonight. The Illinois Chat game over 44.5. What we're looking at now is 45. And for tomorrow, I like Syracuse minus the points.
I love it. Vaughn, your shot. I know you got a lot going on.
Yeah, definitely a big day.
Yeah, definitely
big day for the
I know.
learners.
With Pittsburgh Steelers on, we know where you're going tonight. Go ahead and talk about what you got going on as far. And I know you got content over at NBC as well. Promote that, and then talk about any other plays you want to talk about.
Yeah, of course, we'll be live tonight, 7 to 8 p.m. leading into Thursday Night Football. Every Monday night and Thursday night primetime game, we go live on the NBC Sports YouTube, do fantasy and betting picks. And then Saturday mornings, we do our college football show, which has been pretty good so far. But, yeah, I have a lot of picks I like. It's another bounce-back week in college football for me. Like Rob said, it was tough weeks 1, week 2. I did like a lot of the picks that you guys gave out. It's always good betting action. The Florida-Tennessee first half, I actually partially bet that at the over 30.5 on Tuesday because I think I agree with Rob. It's just too low. It should be around 32.5, 33.5. And I also like Wisconsin's team total under 19.5. I think I may be going to the window with that one. I like what Jim Knowles has done with Ohio State's defense so far. But as far as some 2 Friday and Saturday bets, I'll give you guys in college football. Rob said Syracuse minus 9.5. That spread's come down from 13.5 to 9.5. So if you like Syracuse, this is a great price to get involved. I'm on Virginia's team total under 22.5. Probably a lot of the same reasons as Rob, but Virginia struggled so far. 3 points at Illinois, 14 points at home against Old Dominion. They're losing the turnover margin. They're -3, where Syracuse is +6. So I really like the team total under there for Virginia. And then on Saturday, you're not a man if you're not betting the under in Iowa versus Rutgers. I got 35. It's going to be the scariest and sweatiest bet of them all, but you got to keep riding the unders in these Iowa games. We have not only 2 of the worst quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and Spencer Petras and Evan Simon, but literally 2 of the worst quarterbacks in all of the Power 5 football. So, yeah, fade those 2 teams, play the under no matter what it is, and play the under in the Steelers and Browns game. I've watched 51 Steelers-Browns. Well, I've been alive for 51 Steelers-Browns regular season games, and 30 of them have gone under. All right, since the Steelers have been underdogs, 14 out of 17 games have gone under since '87. There's just under when these 2 teams meet. I like the teaser with the Steelers +10 in the under, and I also threw a unit on Jacoby Brissett under 31.5 longest completions because, like Rob said, a lot of wind, very ugly game today. Expect a lot of ground and pound, low-scoring game.
Oh, man, I love it. There's a lot of alignment between the 3 of us, and that makes me happy. A lot of extra plays during the last words as well. Man, I hope you guys in the chats and the viewers here enjoyed the show today. But that is the sign that this is the end of the show. Thank you guys for tuning in into the debut episode of College Bet Day. Thank you to Rob and Vaughn for joining me today. Thanks to all who tuned in on YouTube and on Twitter. If you are on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button before you bounce. Make sure you check out the links in the description as well. And as always, just like on Let's Cap, I have to end with this. Please remember, whether you fade us or follow us, it's on you to make that call. Good luck on all your action. Till next time, peace.